So what's up, Rhody Nation? This is Scott Brand, your host of the Go Rhody Podcast Network. If you tuned in today, you're going to have a great treat because I have Thorr Bjorn, now the Vice President of Athletics for the University of Rhode Island. Thorr, it's been 4 years since you've been on this show. Can
Scott,
you
great to
believe
see
it?
you. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled when you reached out, and I couldn't believe it's been 4 years. Feels like yesterday, but no, I appreciate everything you do, and very grateful to just be able to spend some time with you. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate everything you do, and you're a very humble person, and you have such a celebrated job, but you look out for everyone.
Thank
And
you.
by the way, look at this shirt. If you remember, I asked for a couple of shirts and you sent me 2 boxes. I'm going to get you back later on. Maybe we'll give you a little NIL plug at the end.
There we go. Perfect.
But so, how are you doing?
And you know what? Everything's great. It's certainly we're coming off a great year from an athletic department standpoint.
Yes.
Winning 5 championships. 2 of those were baseball. A point and a half away from winning an outdoor men's track championship. Just a fun year. Football did was just getting over that hurdle, winning a conference championship, getting to the playoffs, winning a game, and then the track teams, the rowing team killing it, and what Raf did with baseball.
The other thing that you should be very proud is this is a really big deal. The vice president for the athletic department. What other things and responsibilities that you do are a little different now? Because I can't imagine much more. You did it all when you
It
were
really,
vice
yeah,
president.
right. It really isn't much different in terms of daily responsibilities. I think it's more, as I said, in terms of elevation of the department. That's how I would look at it. Think of it as a department deal rather than an individual. And I also look at it in a way that says, okay, yeah, I've had a seat at the table. Now it's an elevated seat in terms of title only.
Yeah.
But I also take that seriously. I think it ends up meaning a great deal to me, and I'd like to think it means a great deal to the department. Again, back to the perception and importance of the athletic department.
Well, let's go to the deck.
Great.
This picture, Thorr, you look so relaxed.
Oh, thank you.
You must have been told that you're a VP of.
I think I was at that point, and I was actually out watching football practice a little bit. So it's certainly, anytime I'm watching practice, I'm enjoying life.
You were named Vice President of Athletics. You've won a lot of awards as well. One of them was the NCAA. I think you've spent some time with Bernadette, the Big Ten. Well, you mentioned it earlier on this podcast, and I'm saying this, that the last 3-year stretch is one of the strongest in school history. Here's some numbers. Since 2022-23, you've won 11 titles across 6 sports among Atlantic 10 sports, and only VCU has 17 has won more titles. And that's really what an athletic director is supposed to be. You're supposed to be that person that's not just helping the basketball and the football team. You're every single day there's another game, and it seems like you have a tweet coming out and you're ready for promoting it, and the lacrosse thing. So that's pretty impressive. I would compare that, and a lot of people may not agree with me, is to your 2017-18 stretch with Hurley there. You did really well because it's so well-rounded in all the sports and has an impact on so many people. But
thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's what again, when I think about some of our marquee sports, you mentioned the men's and women's basketball, football, they get the most exposure, they get the most press coverage and biggest crowds, and they deserve it in a lot of ways, and we're thrilled about that, and we want to be really successful in those programs and continue to work and strive to do that. We've got great coaches leading those programs, and have even previous coaches, great coaches leading those programs. But as I think about winning those 11 titles across 6 sports in the last few years, that is a point of pride.
Another role for this show, one of my goals is if you could teach me something and revenue sharing. And I know that we're all capped, everyone, at 20.5 million. Now, how does a P4 school, and I'm getting tired of people still calling it P5, it's P4. I want to set that record straight.
It could be three in some people's opinions, but anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, you know more about that than me, but so if you're going for a UCLA or a Duke, how could you pay all that? That money will blow by very quickly. How is it going to be capped when you're paying these people and it keeps growing?
It's I'll tell you it's really fascinating. It's challenging. So yeah, let's talk through it, and if I start going off on a tangent, you can just wave your hand and pull me right back.
Oh,
You know,
please.
the way this house settlement has come together, there's really, it's a settlement between the NCAA and the Power Four leagues, right? And it
Hmm.
all has to do with revenue share, basically the ability for student athletes to get paid directly as part of a revenue split with the Power Four leagues. And the fact that the other member institutions, the 27 other leagues, are really on the hook for paying, I don't know the exact number, 62, 63% of this settlement, the $2.8 billion over 10 years. I mean, we're paying a huge chunk of that. Yet we weren't named in the lawsuit, the rest of us. And so that part's a little frustrating, as you can imagine. So
Yeah,
in Rhode Island's world, that's probably a $500,000 to $600,000 per year hit that we're not receiving from
yeah,
the NCAA as part of our distribution, and that's going to pay primarily, not exclusively, primarily Power Four football players over from the past 10 years. I mean, it's hard to swallow when you really think about
yeah,
it. And again, we're not unique. I'm not sharing anything that every other AD in the non-Power Four doesn't feel. And then also, none of us are generating $20 million in revenue. I mean, the Power Fours are with great football programs. I get it. So to your question, if you're a Power Four team, and without mentioning any names, you can figure out that team. Maybe if you happen to be a top 3 or 4 or 5 BCS level football program, you're probably already spending $30 to $40 million in NIL in the past year out of collectives. So you still need to it's not going backwards. So this $20 million is great. That helps with part of it because you don't have to go through a collective to do it. There's actually real benefits, whether it's the revenue that they generate or now donors, in our case, for example, that help us with our NIL expense, can give the money to the university, and then we can, work around that. But at least the funds can go into the foundation, for example, and help offset other expenses so that we can put together revenue programs that put our NIL program in place. And that was all supposed to work out great because here was the guardrail. The guardrail was that Deloitte was hired by the NCAA to basically say, okay, any deal that's over and above this cap.
yeah.
My terminology is not exactly right here, so forgive me because there's a specific term and I can't remember it, but everybody will know what I mean because it's semantics.
Hmm.
Deloitte was supposed to be able to say, or this other commission was supposed to be able to determine anything outside of that cap, is there fair market value associated with that deal? You have to report every student over that cap number. Any money that you're getting outside of a university rev share has to get reported, anything over $600.
Yeah,
So with that, you have to be able to show proof of some sort of performance. What did you do to get it? So, at a place like Rhode Island, if all of a sudden we have a student athlete that is getting a $2,500 deal because they're running a clinic for a program for a bunch of kids, great. That's easy to prove. Here's my pro forma and whatever. If you're at a Power Four program or some other program, and you were telling a kid you can get 100 grand to go sign autographs at a birthday party, that probably would not pass the muster anymore. And that makes sense, right? So again, go back to what I said before. The A10's a basketball centric league. We know that we can be competitive, and we've proven it as a league uh, in the NCAA tournament. Going in and winning games at times and making a run at times. As a league.
hmm,
And so we would say, okay, great. The math tells us that out of that cap and out of the majority of those funds at the Power Four level, that's going to football. So maybe, we don't know this, but maybe, a rev share number around the basketball programs from the university's, distribution, to guess, maybe it's 4 million, 5 million, 6 million. Okay. That's still more than most of the A10 schools are doing, but it's still, you can still get there, right? You can be competitive.
Mhm.
It sounds crazy, but it's manageable in your mind. So what happened 2 nights ago, as part of this, 30 days into this settlement, collectives were threatening to file a lawsuit against the Power Four and the NCAA again, basically saying none of the collective deals that have been submitted were approved because there was no fair market value strong enough to be associated with them. And there's probably another terminology that was used. I think if you go online, you'll be able to find it as a rationale. But it's basically that. That's basically the point. So the collectives were starting to threaten to sue, and so the Power Four and the NCAA said basically, all right, never mind. That's off the table now. Collectives can do whatever they want. So now the red flag for us is if you were a Power Four program, a basketball program, who are getting a lot more. I think we had as a non-Power Four group of conferences in the Big East. I think we had 6 at-large bids last year, maybe 7, maybe 5, but it's that 5, 6, 7 number.
Yeah.
So it's getting harder to get an at-large bid. Fan bases need to understand that. It's getting harder. You're having less opportunity. So, okay, we're going to spend NIL money, in the A10, for example, to try to get one of those 6 or 7 slots. We've been fortunate enough to get it in the past. That's what we're striving for. Um, and okay, if we're spending X amount of dollars in NIL, maybe it's not the same amount as a Power Four program, but we're confident. We got great coaches, we got good kids. We can get there. Maybe get a little lucky, we can get there. But now, again, with the idea that a big chunk of that money was going to football. Now, based on this new rule, school X, Y, Z, you insert whichever ones you want. They can go back to their collectives and say, you know what, collective for basketball, I need 10 million bucks. I need $15 million. I need $20 million. We've just taken this and totally provided an even greater disadvantage to the non-Power Four. And you got to remember, we're still paying 62% of the bill of the house settlement to begin with over these 10 years, when we weren't even plaintiffs, nor were we generating this type of revenue that we're even talking about. Now, our argument there is, well, we're part of the association. You're all part of it. Okay, fair enough. But we don't have nearly the say in anything that's going on. We don't have any decision-making ability. We don't have the approval to agree into the settlement that came in 2 days ago, which now provides us with a huge disadvantage. So there's just a lot of frustration about all of this because at the end of the day, I think if you talk to any athletic director or media member, sports writer of college sports, there is a feeling that there's going to be a split at some point. When's
Yes.
it going to happen? When is the Power Four going to say, hey, in order to play with us, you need to do X, Y, or Z, or else you can't? That's coming. We don't know when.
Yes.
I have no crystal ball, but common sense tells me we used to think it was over that 10-year payout of the house settlement. I don't see that happen anymore. I think there's going to be a magic time when everybody looks at it and says, okay, great, we can handle the rest of the settlement. We don't need them anymore. We're going to leave. That's kind of my angst and my concern with all this, and that's the frustration. We do need probably Congress to step up and help us with some protections as an association, as a league. They're hesitant to do that because I think as an association, I'm not blaming anybody other than us because we're all part of it. By limiting student athletes' ability to make money on their name, image, and likeness for so many years, when a kid that wanted to give guitar lessons could do it, yet a tennis player couldn't give tennis lessons, it makes no sense. Common sense says to you, of course you guys are going to get your wrist slapped. You should. But unfortunately now, I think we're going to find ourselves in a position where college sports is going to change dramatically. There's probably some things that we all feel could come into play that would really help us as an industry, not as a university, but as an industry, because the fans love it. And the men's basketball tournament, now the women's basketball tournament, is certainly something that's probably one of the most appealing sports events in the world. And I think part of that, and again, just one person's opinion, that first weekend's a lot of fun to watch. The upsets are great. That makes it special. But I think when you're going to have less and less access to that championship, It's going to be really hard, and it's going to look very different. I think this past year is a great example of what
Yes,
it's probably going to end up looking like.
it, it wasn't March Madness at all.
Mm-mm.
And right up to the round of 16, there really weren't that many upsets. And I think we're the top four seeds in the final four.
I
I
think
think
so.
they were. Yeah,
Or pretty
that's
darn close.
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
Tell Seth Davis that because he's driving the Rhody fans crazy with his remarks that there's nothing has changed and there's great opportunities for the mid majors. But so what you're basically saying is they could commingle the NIL funds with the revenue sharing and pay what they have been paying and more. That's how they're going to get around it.
right. They won't commingle them. They'll be separate. But
Yeah.
but a collective now almost has unlimited ability, depending on how much money they generate, to be able to do additional NIL deals for players. So that actually gives a lot of flexibility. If I'm a Power Four school, I'm saying, you know what, I'm going to take out of the cap. I'll take 20 million of it. I'll take 18 million of it. Put it towards football, a million towards women's basketball, a million towards men's basketball. And okay, collectives, let's go build up that pool of X amount of dollars needed for baseball, softball, men's basketball, women's basketball, and let's get those numbers up into the 10, 15, 20 million dollar range. And oh yeah, by the way, football, we need to raise another 15 million to just have a competitive roster to try to win a national championship because the money's so great there on the football side. Football drives everything. Power BCS level football drives everything.
I've been told by Dick Hoops Weiss, he was a guest on my show about 4 months ago, and I learned very quickly that football does drive everything. And the amount of revenue that it has compared to anything else is just incredible.
It's so simple when you think about it, Scott. It's supply and demand. You
Yeah.
can watch any number of basketball games on any given night during the winter, but football, it's still a much smaller number of games, and the value of those games are so significant.
Yeah, that not everyone gets that, but uh, and I was reading an article where you were featured the Rhode Island athletic directors. So the focus for Rhode Island, according to the article, will be primary focus at URI women's basketball and football and men's basketball.
Yeah, so really,
Is that accurate?
from a university dollar perspective, we're using our funds, our quote unquote revenue funds, to put NIL programs for men's basketball and women's basketball. Some of that is donor related offset. Probably half of those programs that we're doing are going to be supported through donors, NIL programs, I should say. On
Yeah.
football, we do have some NIL spend, and those are all 100% donor driven. And we don't restrict any of our other programs from doing it. They're more than welcome. But it's funny, when I met with all of our coaches, I just said, you guys can do whatever you want. And we want to provide every educational opportunity for students to go out and be entrepreneurial, because I think at the end of the day, that's what NIL was supposed to be. Go
Yeah.
out and generate revenue based on your name, image, and likeness. Go work, go be entrepreneurial. We definitely don't limit that. We do everything in our power to educate. Jeff Johnson, one of our associate athletic directors, works tirelessly on building relationships and partnerships on campus to really work to educate our students. But what we've also said is program X, Y, or Z, if you want to provide fundraise NIL opportunities for students, you can do it. But you got to think about the impact. Think about the locker room. If you've only got one or two kids on getting NIL money, and a lot of things happen to create a really bad dynamic in a locker room. You have to think that through from a rev share or a fundraising perspective. From an NIL true go out and generate your own deal, we'll continue to work so hard to give those students an opportunity to do it, and some are really aggressive and quite successful. But there's a lot of impacts when you start passing money out that coaches just need to be aware of. It's a different world now.
Yes, it is. And but you did mention that it's a good deal in the sense that our donors will have a tax write-off. So there's something good out of that.
That's why the House settlement, and that's why we opted in. It was a no-brainer opt-in for us. We weren't worried about our roster cap numbers. That's what hurts a lot of. Although most schools have opted in, that was one of the fears, especially with the privates. When you start capping rosters, if a school X has 140 kids on their football roster, if you think about it, small privates, that's all about tuition dollars. So now you're capped at 105. That's going to impact the school's bottom line. In our case, we weren't at we weren't dealing with that issue outside of our men's track program. It was the only one that could potentially have a challenge as it relates to roster in the new cap.
Yeah.
But I think, in baseball too, because baseball was dropping from 38 down to 34. So there's a cap hit there for everybody. But at the end of the day, we felt the flexibility to have donors, support us through the university was a far greater benefit than to ever dream of not opting in. So that became it was a no-brainer for us.
Yeah. Well, that's great. You got me the information I didn't want. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
The return on investment of your YouTube video that you did was, what was the final number? I think I have it here, that you raised 65.8 million.
60, yeah, about 64 million from from the state of Rhode Island. I get to give so much credit to the governor, the speaker,
Yeah.
Senate president, the South County delegation. We invited everybody down to take a tour of some of our facilities and
Yeah.
and the disrepair of many. And so they really stepped up to help us. And the entire estimated budget for all the projects is about 84 million. We are moving full steam ahead on Meade Stadium renovations. That'll start right after the season ends. Our track construction for a brand new 9-lane track and throws area should be starting within the next month. It'll probably be about a year before that's finished. But we haven't had a track, although we've had amazing success in track.
I know.
Since I've been here. It's been well before my time. So that'll be really special. That'll be the first project that's completed. I think Meade Stadium will be the second. We've got some significant financial contributions around baseball and around softball. So we've got some work to do there, and we've got to continue to go out and raise some funds around soccer. So I'm really excited about this. This is a real game changer. The thing that I say about it, it's the facilities that we're renovating they're something that we should all be proud of. They're functional. They're blue collar. They're not over the top. They're something we can be incredibly proud of that are going to make our program so much different, look so much better, first class in so many ways. But I think the state of Rhode Island, and we're certainly going to welcome everybody down to check them out when they're completed, should be very proud when this is all said and done.
Well, you did it with that video. I guarantee you. I know how YouTube works. And how much did it cost you to do the video?
It was zero.
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 Yeah, like I said, who would not want? Any business person should be proud of you on your return on investment. It looked like it's $65 million return on investment with $0.
Thank you.
I'd hire you for a hedge fund. One of your greatest ones was 2019 with the turf and lights. I saw you on Instagram, and you looked like the happiest guy checking out the field and the lights. And
it was no, I'll tell you. When I think about, and I've said this publicly, when I think about football at Rhode Island, and obviously there were some challenging years for us, and what I've said, especially now, because we have made these investments. Our donors have stepped up to help make the investments. The university, President Parlan, just stepped up to help make these investments in the way we operate our program. We funded our program to be bad. It didn't mean we had bad coaches. It didn't mean we had bad kids or not talented kids. We just funded our program to not be as successful as we need to be. And, money does equate to success. And what does that mean? When I got here, we had a weight room that was an old classroom, maybe a double classroom. And now we have an 8,000 square foot weight room that we opened up in 2013, I think, that, is special. It's a difference maker. Our student athletes need to get in that weight room. They need to get stronger, more fit. That's a difference maker, especially for a program like football. When I talk to our donors, John and Sheila Priori, it's a Priori Family Field, and talked to them. We were having dinner in Villanova probably in 2017, and I started talking about this turf and lights, and they said, "Why is that important?" And I said, because people, including my time at UMass umpteen years ago, would always say, "Why are you going to Rhode Island? They're dropping football. Why are you going to Rhode Island? They're dropping football." Whether that was real or perceived, it didn't matter. Everybody used it against us. We heard. Look at our record. 2018, we took a step back in 2019, but then ever since that point forward, our program's been one of the top programs in the CAA. And it's just been with some small, different types of creative investment, but it's moved the needle. It's made a big difference. Jim Fleming is not a good coach. He's a great freaking coach, and his staff is
Yeah.
amazing. He's been able to maintain a big chunk of his staff. When I think about AJ Pena's story, when people don't think about that. AJ Pena is the defensive player of the year preseason this year. He left to go to Memphis, in the spring semester and made the decision to come back. And when you listen to him yesterday at Media Day as to why, it gives me the chills to think about. It's what we talk about at this program for this university or this athletic department all the time. And so when AJ came back, to me, that was such a great statement. Here's a kid that is an incredible talent, a pro level player. And he said, you know what? I missed my experience at Rhode Island. And that's a tribute to Coach Fleming, his style. It's a tribute to his staff and the teammates and the success that we've been able to build as a university. And it's a tribute to to the entire campus experience. So I'm so proud. I think it's a huge point of pride and something that I think is kind of goes back to the culture and core of who we are as a department and as a university.
Let me ask you another question. Are you backing your way into the FBS, or there's never a chance? I did some research. I don't think it's such a great idea.
Zero interest. Never going to happen. Yeah, no, it makes
Okay, thank you.
Makes no sense for us. We love FCS football.
Yeah.
We love a chance to compete for a playoff bid. We love the way we run our program. No, we have zero interest. Zero.
Yeah. No, well, you're a hedge fund guy, so you knew that, and I knew that too. I did the math with Massachusetts, and I couldn't understand that, but that's another story for another day.
Another story.
How about this? You're gonna have fun with this. How big was this for you in your life? I know we're talking about earlier on the last 3 years, but 17, 18, having the ability to find the talent in Dan Hurley. Dan Hurley was at Wagner. What was it like? I mean, and it's still like that. Every time he wins a national championship, I see you tweet.
I'm actually again getting the chills thinking about it. Dan's become a great friend and someone that I truly love. I mean, he and Andrea, and I'm just the ability to work with him. Dan, I know made me a better athletic director. He pushed, and I don't mean that in a jerky way. I mean that look, he came here with expectations of trying to win. He didn't come here just to put on the Keaney blue and be happy. He came here to win and win championships and we had a lot of work to do as a university to try to put ourselves in that position to get to where we were in 17 and 18. And that goes back to the weight room, for example. It goes back to working on the conversation about the practice facility and making investments in offices and locker rooms and video rooms and so forth. Those were again telling a story and getting donors to step up. But what I loved the most about working with Dan is his true drive for success. And Dan it's funny, he's one of the smartest people and most insightful people I know. And and it's two-way. Hey, whether he's great in calculus, I don't know that answer. But I know he's incredibly smart in terms of reading people, understanding people, running a program, bringing in a coaching staff that he can relate to, and then finding great players and motivating them. And so no, I enjoyed that time very much. I'm so happy for him and his 2 national championships. That doesn't just happen. You don't just get lucky. It just proves that he's a Hall of Fame coach. I'm excited someday to go to the Hall of Fame when he gets inducted.
When he's in PC, playing against PC, he always says, "Go Rhody."
That's right.
And look at the game he put together. We made some money on that. So just the understanding that he's in a huge program. Maybe maybe they'll win it again this year.
That's right. He and Archie are friends, and he loves URI, and will do whatever he can to help us. And not at the expense of UConn, but he'll do whatever he can to help us when he can, and we're grateful.
I'm sure you do, but he keeps a headband of E.C. Matthews right by his desk, because that was such a tragic moment for him, not just as a player, but those two were like a father and son.
They were, and when EC went down to that game against American in those first couple minutes, that was devastating to us all. But I think, I don't want to speak for Dan, I don't want to speak for anybody, but I think as Dan overcame that, it took a little bit of time, but he overcame that injury and his love for EC and his disappointment for the kid. it was a really good learning experience for him and for our program as a whole. You know, it's funny when I think about the guys on those teams. Jeff Doughton stopped by today.
Oh, wow.
I was in a meeting in my office and someone knocked on the door and he poked his head in and man, it just brings a big smile to my face. And one of the most classy, best people, you know, talent wise and people wise to ever wear the Rhody uniform. And you know, that's what's exciting about, you know, guys that want to come back and think about this place as their home. So, you know, Dan and Dave Cox and the rest of that staff did a great job of bringing in, you know, special players and Preston Murphy was part of that, and
Yeah.
just great guys that were part of this, you know, part of this family for a lifetime.
This is a great question. And I
Yeah.
follow this team. I think this team has a chance to surprise a lot of naysayers, and there are a lot. He did a 180 with these players. They're gritty. You can win games on the road by playing elite defense. This is the type of players he's bringing in. And Cochran, I had him on there. He's just a humble guy. I thought he was going to be, you know, a rough and tough guy with the way he plays. He's Jared Terrell, by the way.
You know, Archie's not a good coach. Archie's a great coach.
Good,
And
thank you.
yeah, and we're not in the world we live in since he came here. Think about it.
Yeah,
You know, we're in the world of the transfer portal. And when Archie's had when he had those great programs, I mean, Elite Eight experience, so, you know, short way from the Final Four when he was at Dayton. You
yeah,
know, you get older. When you're good, you're old. Our 17, 18 years, we were old. You got to be old, and
yes,
you got to find culture guys. And you know, I said this last night at a Meet the Players event. And then I'll get into this group. These last 2 years of players, I really like the guys. I've gotten to know every one of them. They're great, but it's still hard to mold a team together in a very short period of time. And so, you know, 2 years ago, you know, Arch's first year or second year, it was a challenge, but you know, we were better than we were the year before. And then everybody goes, right, for the most part. So you're starting fresh
yeah,
again. And so you're trying to mold this group together again. These are not excuses. This is reality, right?
I
And
know.
you're trying to figure all that out. But the most important message that I need to put out there about navigating NIL, we've never done this before. It hasn't existed before, right?
Yeah,
The numbers are changing dramatically. So a year ago, not this past March, previous March, Archie and I sat down, and I do know the number, but I'm not going to share it, and say, "Hey, Arch, here's your budget for NIL for this, you know, for this coming class, blank, a
yeah,
lot less than it is now." And so he went out, got to work, never complains about one thing, ever complains about one thing. You know, I feel so connected to him. We can have great, rational conversations, honest conversations. He can come to me with anything he wants, but never makes an excuse ever. He is just a first class individual and someone I really love working. So what happened was, fast forward, you know, we're feeling like we're supporting, we're doing the right thing. We have no idea what anybody's spending. There's no transparency. People lie. You'd be shocked to know in college athletics, people are lying to each other. So you have no idea what anybody's spending. Arch came back to see me, I'm going to say in June, maybe it was May, maybe it was June, it doesn't matter, and said, "Hey, we don't have enough." And we scrambled, talked to the president, talked to some donors, took some risks, and said, "Okay, we got to scramble to get a few more guys." And so this past year, I don't know, maybe it was in March, maybe it was in February, maybe it was in April, I don't remember. But I was in Arch's office and we're talking, and I said, "Coach, how many guys did you miss on during that 2 or 3 month time frame when you knew the budget you had, which we found out later wasn't even half of what it should be?"
yeah,
And not a complaint, just a fact. "Oh, we probably missed on, you know, couldn't speak to 50 or 60 guys we would have liked to talk to." 50 or 60 guys. Now, this does not mean I'm being any way disrespectful to the guys on the team last year. I'm not. I think they're a wonderful group, you know, just trying to figure things out. But when you start looking at numbers of players that you're evaluating, you're looking for culture, you're looking for position, you're looking for work ethic, you're looking for different skill sets, you're looking for maturity. And you know, if all of a sudden you take 50, 60 guys off the table, that's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that was great this year, and again, it just is what it is as we navigate. I met with Archie before the season ended this year. I gave him a number for the budget. He said thank you. Portal wasn't open yet. He thought about it and came back to me 24 hours later and said, we need to talk.
Mhm.
And we need at least 50% more, at least.
Yeah.
And the numbers keep changing. They go through, it's astronomical. It's crazy. So again, sitting down with the president, sitting down with some donors, getting very creative, we said, you know what, we're going to double it. We're going to double it. And, let's see what you can do. And, to his credit and to his staff's credit, they sat down and they evaluated guys based upon maturity, athleticism, strength, core team type culture guys. And so I'm thrilled. I'm fired up. Now, again, every other program is trying to do this too. And remember what I said at the beginning of this podcast, or when we talked about, this whole house settlement. There's only 7 spots.
Yeah.
The math will show over the last 7, 8 years, there's 7 at-large spots that every other school is competing for outside of the tournament champions, the automatic bids, and the Power Four. You're looking, and the Big East. You're looking for 7 at the most spots. So it's a challenge. But look, Archie knows how to coach on the road, and he knows how to get guys to play defense. He knows strategy and schemes. And the thing that gets me most excited about this, I met every single one of these kids on the recruiting trip. Great group, really, really smart. Watching them last night, and again, this may sound silly, and this may sound like a no-brainer. Of course they were like this. They were engaging, not one phone out as they're sitting there waiting for season ticket holders to come up and talk to them. They want to be part of this family, enhance this culture, and they want to win.
Yeah.
And I am really excited about this coming year. Look, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know I believe in our coach, and I know I believe in these players. I know I believe in our fans. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see this group come together and gel. A lot of new faces. This isn't going to change. That's, people ask me, when's the transfer portal? It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not changing. So every year, coaches are going to have to think about, how am I going to build that next roster so that I can be in position to try to win a championship. And I think the structure, the support, hopefully, again, we're only middle of the pack in terms of our NIL support, in the A10. It'd be great to be at the top or not.
Yeah.
But, we feel confident with where we are and what we were able to provide these guys and the strategy coach put together. So I'm thrilled for the year. I can't wait.
Yeah. Some of the fan questions, this has been phenomenal. Your knowledge, and you're always enthusiastic anyway, obviously. But you may not like this question, but I just want to know, everyone seems to complain about the Wi-Fi at the You too?
I do.
I was afraid to ask you that question. I was just practicing last night in the mirror.
I complain about it too. It drives me insane. Like, I'll go over there before the doors open. I'm like, good, I can get on ESPN. This is great. And then it's dead. Yeah. Look, it's going to cost about $1 million+ to upgrade the Wi-Fi in the Ryan Center. We know that. The university knows that. That's not an athletic department deal. We don't run the building. It's a huge cost. And so we've got to continue to figure out a way to make those types of investments, because that's going to attract people to games. That's especially students. So it's a huge investment, something that the president's aware of, I'm aware of, our VP of Administration and Finance is aware of, our VP of Student Affairs is aware of, VP of Marketing, Communications. We know it. It's just big money. And we got to figure it out, because it's going to keep the building from getting certain shows, and it keeps is a negative on our fan experience. So yes, it annoys the heck out of me too, and we know it's unacceptable. Yeah. We just got to figure a way to pay it. At the same time that we're paying significant money in NIL, like significant money. You just have a lot of different things you're throwing at this to try to make it work.
Yeah. That was a surprise.
I think that's a great question.
And if you have any trouble, you could say to them, you should be watching the game. Put your cell phone down.
Put your cell phone down. That's right.
Yeah. There's also the Lady Rams. And what do you think about them? I think that this year, this Rhode Island men's team, if they have the year that the Lady Rams had last year, I'll be satisfied. They were gritty too, and they
were gritty, and they started off slow and really stepped it up, and I think, came together as a team. She's got a bunch of new faces on that roster this year too, but they've been here all of summer session too, working hard. I think they're going to be a lot of fun. It'll be interesting to see how they gel together.
Hmm.
Tammy's awesome. I mean, she's just a great motivator, wonderful coach, and person that we're just so lucky to have here. So, I think she's got a certain style and desire of the type of kid she's looking for, and we've got some transfers from other A10 schools, for example, that we feel pretty good about, very good about, not pretty good
Yeah.
about. And so yeah, it'll be nice to see how that growth works. Not a lot of starters back. A couple of them from last year, a couple kids that saw the floor a lot, but a lot of new faces. And on the men's side, I think because on the men's side, you look for growth, but it's a one hit wonder. You think about a team for 1 year, and you don't think about a team 2 years from now. You can't do that anymore. And when I think we have 7 or 8 kids, 7 or 8 of our men's players are going to be graduating, with master's degrees or certificates or even undergraduate degrees this year. So they're gone no matter what. And those guys, you expect those guys to play. And then I think I love Arch's strategy and getting some of the young guys in. But you really your brain is this year, and we focus on this team from now until April. And when the portal opens, you start figuring out what you got next. That's kind of how it works. But I'm excited for the year. Hey, till you get out and play, you never know. But this team is special. They're talented. They're strong. And the big thing I like, they're old. Old is good.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Except for me. Yeah. You're young.
Uh, also, is the schedule locked for this season? Any more games? I just saw that Old Dominion is going to be playing George Mason and same.
Yes, we're just about finalized our non-conference, and we will release that as soon as
Mhm.
as soon as we get every contract back, we'll end up releasing that. The A10 schedule won't get released until I think mid-September, late September. And the reason why that's in play is it's all based on our TV partners. Our TV partners have the ability to select games first, and then we'll end up releasing them after that. So our non-conference should be out, I hope, in the next 2 weeks at the most.
And what's your take on going to a P4 game and having them pay for you and then going to
Yeah,
Duke or so?
if it makes
Because
sense,
it's a
we do it.
mix.
Yeah, I mean, it's not encouraged in the A10. It's not
Yeah.
restricted anymore. It used to be. Uh,
Hmm.
but if there's a game that we can go play where it makes sense,
Yeah.
then we'll do it. And okay, what makes sense? Winnable. Can you go to a place like Dan did when we won at Auburn that year? We got paid $95,000, and that was his first win at Rhode Island.
Wow.
That worked out for us. That made sense. There's other times the Duke game when Jim Barron was here. Jim Barron was our coach, and Jimmy shot those 7 threes against Duke. It's a hell of a game, a great experience for our guys. So you don't want to go to a place where you're just going to get blown out. That doesn't and collect a $100,000 check. That doesn't do you any good. But if there's strategic games, if there's home and home A4 games that we could play, we'll do it. If there's a bye game which makes sense to us, and coach feels like, hey, this one could make sense, then we'll go play it. But we'd rather find home and home games like we had for Boston College for those, with those years we did with Alabama. I'm not sure we'd ever get that Alabama game again, but a home and home with them was a lot of fun. Nebraska, that was a lot of fun. That was really good for us. So we have to keep looking for those games. It may change, when they were going from 16 games to 18 conference games to 20 conference games, the math just shrinks the opportunities.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times they're just playing guaranteed victories and certainly not willing to go on the road. And in our case, we know we've got to win certain games and try to be strategic about it. So if we're going to go play a bye game, it's got to make sense for us.
Are you looking into a general manager at any time?
No, not right now. We aren't. I see the general manager roles, for large roster football programs, for example. There's so much to manage. It makes sense. We are investing in a general manager platform that'll really help us track and report on our NIL deals, our contracts, our term sheets. All that stuff will be self-contained in this investment that we just made. So I think it'll make things more smooth and efficient. We'll have a much better real-time understanding of where we are with things. So
I'll put together an AI tool and maybe it'll reduce the hours that they have to put together. Maybe I'll have something by tomorrow morning.
thank you. Get to work on that.
I want to end on a high note, and I know you have to go, but this video that I'm about to play is a throwback video.
I still remember, I won't say exactly what they said, but in the Curry X Cage, which was like Keeney Gym, just a small 4,000 seat place, we're playing, I think, Temple. We may be the number one team in the country, certainly a top 10 team. And there was probably 4,000 or 5,000 students outside that couldn't get in. There was only room for 1,300 of them. So in unison, they're yelling. The ones by the door are banging on the door, and the rest are yelling, "Thorr, Thorr, Thorr, open the blanking door."
Oh,
and
my.
it was a riot. And then John Calipari goes onto the fire escape and gets on a bullhorn and says, "Thanks for coming. We're sold out. But I promise you, Thorr will get you tickets for the next game." So it wasn't that wasn't the next game coming up was Temple, I think. And so he called me in the next morning and said, "Hey, come down here." He said, "Hey, I promised all these kids tickets to the next game." I said, "Coach, how are we going to do that? There were thousands of them out there. And how do you know who they are?" He goes, "That's for you to figure out. Just go figure it out."
I had to play that.
Like it was yesterday. I talked to Cal when Jacob Toppin was transferring to Kentucky, and I asked him if he remembered that story, and he said, "You know what? I don't remember, but it sounds just like me, so I'm not surprised."
Well, I end all my shows like this. When it comes to Rhody basketball, it's always go Thorr, Thorr, open the blankety door. Oh, wait, no, go Rhody. Sorry. I can't get that right.
You can bang in the door at the Ryan Center.
Blankety blank was it wasn't that bad. I'm sure they said something else, but that's another story, another day. That's a great story, though. Thanks so much, Thorr, and maybe your food's a little cold at the dinner table now because of me, but it was well worth it. Our fans are going to go crazy over this.
Thank you, Scott, for having me. Thanks for all you do. Always great to see you, and I'm incredibly grateful for your work and your support of URI, and thank you for everything.
Yeah.